And I am live. How are you? Welcome back to my live stream. I took a break, ate some chicken, smoked some cigarettes, drank a Coke, and now I'm back with my ready to live stream again. uh, I'm currently applying for unemployability with the VA, and so if more people would like and subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. Maybe I could make some money at this. I'll try and make the live stream as interesting as possible because of that. I appreciate it. Thank you. Like and subscribe. All right. So, the first thing I wanted to do was read an article about Trump. It's from Fox 13. Used to be called Q13 up in Seattle. And I was a member of the Q13 kids when I was up there. It was pretty fun. We got into the water park for free and stuff like that. And I think we might have been on screen one time. Anyways, and went to some other events. Anyways, back onto the article. Trump predicts Supreme Court will strike down his birthright citizenship order. The brief. The brief. In social media posts, Trump said the Supreme Court will rule against the administration of birthright citizenship. In what they're saying. Well, maybe Neil and Amy just had a really bad day, but our country can only handle so many decisions of that magnitude before it breaks down and cracks. Sometimes decisions have to be allowed to use good, strong common sense as a guide. So Trump was not just predicting that his order would be ruled unconstitutional, but rather he was encouraging them to look to have common sense and approach this. The 14th Amendment was originally passed for slaves, and there are no slaves alive in America now. They're all dead. So everybody is a citizen. We should not allow these people who come over and have children to remain in the United States. This is a part of Trump's broader deportation plan, is to prevent people from having babies and being allowed to stay in the United States with what is known as an anchor baby. And they do this because of the 14th Amendment. I got into an argument the other day with someone about this, and I explained to them there are no slaves left alive today. So, you, me, him, Dr. Ben Carson, we're all U.S. citizens. We are, we don't need to be grafted in anymore as citizens because originally slaves were not treated like citizens, they were not regarded as citizens. That's a fact. And there's a Supreme Court decision about Dred Scott, and you can read about it. And it's very fascinating because in the decision, they discussed the ownership of firearms, and slaves were not allowed to own firearms along with non citizens. It's important to mention that the current Save America Act, I don't support because it uses the term non-citizen and never defines what a non-citizen is. So I think somebody is going to lose their citizenship if that passes. And I don't know who it will be, but Congress always disenfranchises somebody ever since Obama was in office. I've noticed that in legislation and in uh, even in the United States Navy, there were things that somebody was disenfranchised and they wouldn't apologize for it either. The left wing took over and implemented their policies. And that's precisely why I voted for Donald J. Trump as president. He is a good man and he's going to lead this country to greatness. And he is leading this country to greatness as we speak right now. And let me look further in this article and see what it says. Let's see. A negative ruling on birthright citizenship on top of the recent Supreme Court tariff catastrophe is not economically sustainable for the United States of America. So, what this means is that the United States cannot continue to have birthright citizenship because our economy is set up for citizens, not for these people that are coming over to have a baby and remain in the United States. It's not sustainable. So I think Trump is correct. Eventually, the system is going to implode if we allow it to continue. And the Supreme Court needs to wake up and realize this, and as Trump has, you know. And so America is uh, is really on a teetering point with this because allegedly, I read in an article that the Social Security is supposed to end in 2035. Well, there was Project 2030 where they were trying to get all these illegals into the United States and give them Social Security. See, by 2030. So they would have Social Security, but your grandkids won't. See, so they were going to take your Social Security and give it to them. I don't know what they're going to do about Social Security because I think they need to come up with a. George W. Bush had a pretty brilliant idea, I thought, for uh, a better retirement system that would give you more control over it and allow you to make decisions on your investments and make it so it's not a tax anymore. It's money that you set aside so that you can retire, and it's your money. You invest it the way you see fit, and then people will be more likely to have a better retirement. It would work. I guess it would work similar to a 401k or maybe the TSP. I don't think the government would match it, but I can't remember what exactly George W. Bush said. Maybe the government would match it, you know? Uh, while I was in the Navy stationed in Massawa, I found out that the United States makes hundreds of trillions of dollars a year. It's not even funny how much money the United States makes. And the United States could afford to probably pay a universal basic income, I realized, and it wouldn't even feel it. Like the debt that we have is a lot of money for one person, but in reality, it's not going to have any effect during my lifetime or yours either. If you're watching this right now, it's we can kick that can down several generations because of how much money the United States makes. And I saw this in print form. It's incredible the money that America makes, and most people don't even realize it. They could just end taxation, and the United States would be just fine. They don't need an income tax either, because the reality is, we America makes so much money that it's not even funny. It really is not, especially in light of taxation. Um, but the politicians want more money so that they can play with your money. See, it's not just about getting your money, it's about having power over you to get your money, you see. And so that's why they continue this taxation, even though America is well above and beyond the need for you to pay any kind of a tax for any reason. Um, Maybe it wasn't always that way, but now it is. Another thing is that the United States, America is, Robert Jeffress, he talks about it a lot. He talks about the foundation of America and how the United States was founded on Christian principles. Now, Robert Jeffress stopped short of calling America a theocracy. He doesn't call America a theocracy. We're not founded on theocratic principles, but we had American, we had Christians in the founding of America, and the document they produced, although it doesn't mention God, is based in part on the Word of God found in the Bible, found in Scripture. And, it's very important how this has played out because in America, we are in a fight, I think, to determine who America is going to follow. Uh, who is America going to serve and worship? On one hand, it seems like you have Allah, and on the other hand, you have Jesus. We got to serve somebody. So there's no middle ground in this. And you either serve Allah or Jesus. And me personally, my God is living. I serve the living God. So I believe America should serve the living God as well and belong to him because if we don't, then the chains of slavery will return to America. That's just going to happen. Without Jesus, there is no brotherly love, there is no chain breaker, there is no liberty and no freedom. So, you know, the reality is we need uh, Jesus and we need his power to guide us and uh, to direct us as a country. Because as Trump said, and as uh, Pete said, reiterated, our rights don't come from government, they come from God. And so if we don't worship God and we end up worshiping the devil, we will lose our rights, see, and our freedoms and our liberty. And all that America represents will disappear. And I believe America represents the preview of the millennium. It's not perfect, but it's what the millennium will be with Jesus in addition. So it will be even better. But it's the closest thing we can get to a preview of what it will be like. Everybody will have a job. Poverty will disappear, you know? Like there I do not think there are poor people in America. There are people that are homeless and there are people that are broke, but they are not poor. Not like in some countries. I've been to countries where I've seen poor people and they were poor. There was no doubting that's a poor person over there. Man, it made me seeing that made me grateful for where I was born. I'm not ungrateful for being born in a free, prosperous society where uh I never have had to worry when I'm about whether I'm going to eat or not, you know? I've always been worried about maybe when I'm going to eat or what I'm going to eat, but I've never had to worry about whether I'm going to eat or not. And in some of these other countries, that's exactly what they're worried about. Their next meal because they don't have freedom and liberty to worry about other things. Let's see. I don't have any inspiration today, other than that. I wish I had not. Wish I could see. Let's look at see what's on here. I'm gonna read a scripture again because I really like introducing scripture to my audience. It's a good thing to read. More people should do it. All right. 1 Thessalonians 2:8. So being affectionately desirous of you we were willing to have imparted unto you, not the gospel of God only, but also our own souls, because you were dear unto us. So that was Paul writing to Thessalonica, and he was just explaining that to them, that he hadn't just given them the gospel, which was important, but he also gave them of his own soul. So he likely shared his food with them and stuff like that as well. you know and so it's very fascinating to understand that Paul didn't he doesn't go into detail, it seems like, in the verse, but he said he gave his own soul to them, and he wanted them to know the truth. And at church the other day, I was just amazed at the preacher, the pastor was talking about Psalm 16 and the things he said about it, and how he viewed the perspective of Jesus praying that, and that Jesus is the one in sorrow. On the day of his crucifixion, he was the one in sorrow, and we were the ones that were blessed because of Jesus. And, you know, uh, the saints. See how we're the saints. And so we were blessed that day that he died on the cross. And when he rose again is when he was victorious, you see, because he rose from the dead. But in between that time and at the moment of his death, the something that happened that always interests me and makes me curious is that the veil in the temple was rent. There was a veil that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple, so that the priest could go in with his lamb and be protected in offering to God the required sacrifice of an innocent lamb. So, see how the lamb was innocent, and so the Lamb of God is innocent. Jonathan Kahn explained. You hear the song, it says the lion and the lamb. But Jonathan Kahn explained it's not the lion and the lamb, it's the lion or the lamb. So someday we will have to make a choice between serving the lion, which is the devil, or the lamb, which is Jesus. Because Jesus is innocent all the way through. He never sinned. So he could be counted as sin for us. You see, he was pure, so he became impure, and on the cross, and that's why he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Because he he his whole the pastor pointed out his whole time alive, he had been able to turn to God and receive blessings and protection and guidance and heal people and raise the dead and do all this, feed the 5,000. But when it came to his own suffering, he was unable to actually be spared from it by God, because he was the remission for sins, just like the Lamb was the remission for sins for Israel for millennia. And uh, Robert Jeffress, he explains that the Lamb wasn't really didn't really forgive sin. The Lamb had no ability to do that, but he did. But the Lamb was representative of what Jesus would come to do. And if you read the Bible, you'll come to understand that Jesus said that Abraham looked forward to this time. So Abraham knew somehow that Jesus was going to come, be born of a virgin, of the Virgin Mary, and he was going to die on the cross and forgive sin, and then uh, be resurrected, also that we can communicate with God and someday have the hope of helping of living through Christ. Because once we die, I think that's when we become born again, you know? Jesus says we have to be born of the Spirit. So our spirit is reborn once we die and we go to live with Him if we believe in Jesus, though. It's very fascinating. I, I, uh, I wouldn't talk about the Bible so much. Like there are other things I could talk about, but y- you really cannot separate today's events from the Bible because I see you can just see event after event where, man, that must be in the Bible somewhere. I mean, about Israel, about Iran, which in the Bible, what when they talk about Persia in the Bible, that's Iran. And it's kind of like important to remember because we have uh we're dealing with Iran right now. And so I think this is somewhere in the Bible. I don't know where, but it must be in the Bible. Other things are happening, earthquakes and lightning and all this stuff that the Bible says will happen. You know, I played Bad Moon Rising in my earlier stream. And the reason that I play that song is because I think it fits today. Like that song is pretty timeless, at least as far as we're concerned, because it seems like it's a bad moon every day sometimes. Speaking of the moon and outside, the weather today has just been beautiful. Like this morning, it was cloudy. The sun wasn't beaming down into my face, and it was pretty chilly out too. I wore my hoodie, and then this afternoon the sun came out, and so it was even more beautiful. I thought, you know, because we got this sun break and the sun is still out, so sitting outside, I had a Coke and a couple of cigarettes, a couple of Reds, and I felt pretty good. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go live stream again. Hello there. Welcome to my live stream. I'm just talking about how I was relaxing outside with a Coke and a Red. I haven't done that since A school. Like when I got to I left from A school to Japan, and when I got to Japan, they didn't have Coca-Cola the way they do in America. So I couldn't have a Coke and a Red. And then while I was in Japan, I stopped smoking Reds and started smoking Marlboro Lights for a long time. Uh, so I could still have a red, have a light and a Coke, but which is pretty good. But the Marlboro Lights kind of make me depressed for some reason after a while, and so I quit smoking those and started smoking menthol. Well, when I'm smoking a menthol, I don't like the taste of a Coke when I'm smoking a menthol. So about 2 months ago, I bought a carton of Reds, and I was like, hey, I could have a Coke and a Red. I haven't done that in like 26 years. So I did. I had a Coke and a Red, and it was really relaxing. And each time I do that, it's very relaxing. I can remember being in A school, having a Coke and a Red, and how that would relax me, even more than a coffee and a menthol. But it's just you can make more coffee than you can buy more Cokes. Like if you've seen the price of Cokes, it's not 50 cents anymore for a Coke. It was a long time ago, but now it's more like $2 for a 12-ounce Coke. But it's worth it, you know. The price has gone up, but I still say it's worth it because it causes me to relax. Not very many things cause me to relax. I don't get relaxed by watching a movie. Some movies make me hyperactive. Oh, and that's another thing. While I was outside, I was talking to my dad about watching a movie, because I was playing the soundtrack to the good, the bad, and the ugly for him. I told him, Dad, we need to watch the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he's like, Is that what you're watching? I was like, No, I'm just looking up the soundtrack. Anyways, I don't think he wants to watch it, but I really want to watch it. I want to get popcorn though and have that to watch it, to eat while I watch it. Because I don't watch movies very often. I uh I enjoy movies, certain movies, but it's kind of like the new movies aren't that good. Like for some reason they're just not the classics are what I like when it comes to movies. And the others, I like the way they are. They don't have to redo them for me. No, thank you, Netflix. Because I know they're going to try to remake Lord of the Rings and stuff like that once they can. We need to redo our copyright laws so they can't do that because Lord of the Rings, I like the way Lord of the Rings is, and everybody that I know come across that talks about Lord of the Rings talks about how they like the way it is. How Netflix is going to come along and mess it up, no doubt. And that's why I don't watch Netflix. I'm not going to contribute to messing up good movies. Like Netflix, if you want to mess up a movie, make your own movie in the way you want to. Look at how, Disney is a great movie company. Like their movies, I grew up with Walt Disney, and I was shocked at what they did with Star Wars. It was unbelievable. They destroyed Star Wars, and uh, I I understand why George Lucas sold Star Wars. He needed money, and Disney gave him the money, I guess. And so, uh, what they did with it, other things happened that kind of contributed to the downfall of this Star Wars trilogy that Disney made, and it was terrible. It could have been a lot better. And like I'm a Star Wars fan, but man, I was falling asleep in the theater. I was like, this is not Star Wars. This is something else. This is a Disney creation that might have made its own good story, but it was not Star Wars. I won't regard it as Star Wars. George Lucas is going to have to come along and make his own version of Star Wars, and I'll regard that. But I won't. No, I'm not gonna watch the Disney Star Wars because it's kind of like it's depressing. George Lucas, he struggled with one, two, and three, and so it's clear. But he did make an interesting something that I found that was interesting about one, two, and three is that you do have the mention of a virgin birth. Like it took 2,000 years for humans to envision a virgin birth. you know, like it's right there, and it's right here, a virgin birth. It took, it took George Lucas to come up with a virgin birth apart from the Bible. I don't. So I think that George Lucas was trying to introduce concepts from the Bible and make them believable. Because some people don't believe in the virgin birth, even though it says it's a virgin birth. You know, so. mm. By denying the virgin birth, you deny the divinity of Christ, basically, because if he was he was Joseph's son, then he would only be the son of God in the way that we are. But he is the son of God divinely. He is both God and man, fully God and fully man. So you can only George Lucas doesn't go into any of that in his film, but he does go into the virgin birth, and that that was pretty profound. Like I found myself struggling to enjoy the first two films. But that concept stuck out to me. That concept is in there. I stuck it out. And three ended up being really good. I was impressed with three. It had a lot of detail to it. But, it's interesting. He read Rise and Fall of the Third Reich is very clear because there were a lot of parallels. As I was reading Rise and Fall of the Third Reich a number of years ago, as I watched episode three, I was like, oh man, he got a lot of inspiration from that movie, from that book. It's clear, but you know, I see nothing wrong with that. Like everything comes from something. So we have evidence that George Lucas didn't come up with this whole universe on his own. Like this material existed somewhere, like somehow, and he got a hold of it. I don't know how, but he did a really good job in making it into a movie. In fact, he made three movies out of it. So, you know, and then I remember growing up, there was just toys all over the place about Star Wars. And even today, there are toys about Star Wars all over the place. Mm, sorry about that. My neck gets a little bit sore sometimes. And so it's a part of being a veteran, I think. But anyways, yeah, if you could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that because I'm trying to get this set up on this platform so I can make some money, maybe through the advertisements and stuff. And because right now I don't have an income. I get some disability through the VA, and I'm hoping to get more disability through the VA, but I don't know. I'm not able to work right now because of that, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm live streaming. Well, I'm really live streaming to connect with you and put my ideas out there and my thoughts out there because I've been told I have some pretty deep thoughts by my mom and Billy and other people. And so I think if I can communicate these thoughts, I can enlighten you and maybe you'll see my point. How I think that the SAVE Act is not good for America. And the clue is that Congress is the one trying to pass it. Like, if Trump would just implement his vision, I would go for that. But I wouldn't, no. Sorry, Congress. I am not complying with anything that you have to say. And if that means I can't vote, then I'm not voting. And I'm already not going to vote. What are you going to do about it? Absolutely nothing. So, anyways, that's how I feel about the SAVE Act. I don't think that's good for America. It's not good for Trump either. It's not good for MAGA. It's not good for the Democrats. It's not good for the Republicans. It's not good for anybody except the illegals. It's just a back road to getting the illegals to vote because what are they going to do? They're going to require a driver's license. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't know if you're from Texas or not, but if you noticed, you see illegals driving, buying alcohol, cigarettes, and other stuff. I'm sure they go to the bar and you have to have an ID to go in there. And so they have driver's license. They can vote. And there is nothing we can do about it. So what Congress is going to have to do is come up with some new way to identify us. Excuse me, but why do I have to prove that I am a citizen? What about this person over here that's in line buying alcohol and he can't even speak English and he's from whatever country other than America and he has a license just like me. Uh yeah. The SAVE Act makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And I will never support it because in order to enforce it, they'll have to come up with a new ID. That's the reason. This is just the camel with its nose under the tent. I shouldn't have to prove that I'm a citizen, and you shouldn't have to prove that you're a citizen either. But these illegals need to go. See, and they're trying to pass amnesty for them. See, so the Save Act won't save us. It's it should be shelved, and something else should be put in its place, implemented by President Trump and the Supreme Court, so that we can make sure that we will not end up with a Jim Crow type situation on American citizens, because that's what happens for 100 years is that black people can vote. Man, that's messed up, you know? Like, who thought that was a good idea? And see how it's going to happen that white people won't be able to vote because they're going to make it fair, you see. So for 100 years, white people won't be able to vote. It's going to happen. And the SAVE Act, if it passes, well, that's what will cause it, you know, or they'll sneak it in some other way. They're going to get it through because they got to punish us for voting for Trump. The government was lock, stock, and barrel against Trump during 2020. I had a government job, and everybody in there was hostile towards Trump. Everybody. So, guess what that told me? Is that their superior was against Trump too. So this was not a high position. I was a recreational aide, and at MWR at the base in Fort Worth, and I went and did it for several weeks and realized these people don't like Trump. I mean, the government does not like Trump. So I was really impressed when we all American citizens told our government a big FU and gave them Trump once more because they deserve Trump for being dicks during COVID. Our government is up to no good again, and that much is apparent. Every time I hear about the SAVE Act, and the further down the road we get from it, the better off I think we are. Because they need to, like I said, they're going to have to come up with some new way to identify you and me in order to make the SAVE Act work. And in that process, maybe we won't be able to conveniently get that ID, that new identification form. And so we won't be citizens, see? And so, because the candidate did mention there would be this redefinition of citizenship. She didn't say Trump would do it now because the candidate never mentioned Trump himself. She mentioned a real estate mogul, you see. And so when she was mentioning this real estate mogul, she explained to me that, well, uh, some people will have to reprove their citizenship, you know? So, it's coming. And the SAVE Act is going to be the linchpin to this, to having to reprove our citizenship. And that's not fair to the American people. It's not fair to Trump. It's the only people that it helps is the illegals because they, like we're trying to kick the illegals out, not bring them in. Biden messed up when he left the border wide open. That was incredible. And he needs to pay for that. Like he ruined this country. And if it wasn't for Trump, the country would still be ruined. It was so bad, they made him step down. They made him step aside and let Kamala Harris run because at least she wasn't president. Yeah, she was the border czar, and she denied that. But you can go back and see statements of her that indicate she was the border czar. Fascinating. And she never did anything for the border. I don't even think she visited the border. But meanwhile, Trump did visit the border, and he was horrified by what he was seeing. These caravans just streaming over with it full of illegals. No accountability. Governor Abbott, I think he really did try to stem the tide, but no, He they don't give the states. See, the way the Constitution is, the states have the power to regulate themselves. But the way the federal government sees it is that they're the king, basically, and that these states can't defy them. Uh, excuse me? Have you read the 10th Amendment? If you read the 10th Amendment, Biden, you'll understand that, in fact, you don't have the power to delegate to Texas what it can and cannot do with its territory. This is a fact. And, God bless America. God bless Texas. But I think we're going to suffer for the fact that Biden let those illegals in. They're saying the number is as high as 50 million illegals. And the number was already high under Obama. So that's a lot of illegals. Like, because of the illegals, if they get amnesty, the whites will be a minority, you know? And so it's just further proof that they're going to disenfranchise the whites somehow, either by granting amnesty to the illegals or by, and I'm not against minorities. This is not against minorities. This is against illegal immigrants now. I'm making a distinction here because, like I know, I grew up around minorities growing up in Washington, and uh, they were citizens. They were hardworking people. I never thought that they were less than me or that they didn't contribute to society. And in the Navy, I encountered a lot more people who they were proud to be in the United States Navy, and they were Americans who had been naturalized, and they loved this country, and were proud of their service, and their plan was to live in the United States, because they they loved this country just like you and me, and in the end, we will have to uh, face that they're going to give the Social Security away to these illegals, you see. That was their original plan. But they can't do it now because of Trump. Trump, he will never allow that to fly because Trump is on our side. And I don't think he's going to let them pass the SAVE Act without amending it somehow. I don't, even though I think he wants the SAVE Act, I think he really wants to implement his vision for elections. And I think if we did that, why not do that, Because Congress implemented Jim Crow the first time. The second time, I'm pretty sure they're going to implement some form of Jim Crow again. And it's going to affect white people because the government hates white Christian men, because they don't like the fact that we bring the gospel with us everywhere we go. Like if you watch Charlie Kirk, you see he brought the gospel with him everywhere he went. And it was pretty impressive. I was impressed with his ability to not only discuss it, but to keep it present in his conversation. Like I talk about the Bible sometimes, but I don't think I can do that. Like within a sentence, he would mention something about the gospel and then how it related to his topic. You know, like man, that guy was a genius. I mean, no doubt about it, because he had Turning Point USA. But I mean, at presenting this information both from the Bible and the Constitution, sometimes in one sentence. That's a talent and an ability that is lost forever. The rest of us are going to have to up the notch a bit in our standard of presentation and be able to do that because we can't. The way I see it, Charlie Kirk was the first martyr. You see, there's going to be a lot more martyrs before we sort this out because and it's not just about race. Like if they could, they would go for the blacks again. But the truth is, they know they need to deal with the whites because we're the majority voters, and that's why they were trying to tell us, well, the popular vote doesn't matter. No, the popular vote does matter. Every time a Democrat wins the popular vote, they s- they they boast. And every time a Democrat loses the popular vote, they hide it. You know, they try to sweep it under the rug. And we, the American people, are calling them on it because we all know that the popular vote does matter. We're not a direct democracy, and we have the Electoral College, but it factors in, you know. And so, uh, because America is a Christian nation, we have checks and balances. We need the popular vote as well as the Electoral College because we need to be able to not to ensure that we really don't get someone in there who destroys the Constitution. Trump is trying to change the Constitution a little bit. He's trying to tweak it so that he can prevent this birthright citizenship that will be unsustainable in the future, you know? And it's just the way of things. Like, we can't sustain birthright citizenship for forever. And Trump knows this because our economy is right now absorbing them, but in the future, it may not be able to absorb them. I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Well, as you can see, I'm pouring coffee. Coffee and me. Mm. Hot. Crack apart. Well, it's getting darker outside, so I turned on the light. And I think I will share my live stream with somebody. Huh. Hmm. I got my own live stream. So, anyways, I'm just here chit-chatting about America and the Bible and Trump. And I read an article about how Trump is he expect allegedly he expects his decision will be over to his executive order regarding birthright citizenship will be overturned. And so he will maybe he'll issue another one, or uh, have his attorneys confronted, because this is, and the more I hear about it, the more I think, well, they're trying to quietly get rid of it, but I don't think it's going to go away. Trump is hardcore, working hard to push his agenda, and it, I think the real instigator behind the opposition to Trump is Obama. Obama is the Antichrist. There's no doubt about it in my mind, because I had a vision about this as well in 2007, and that's why I knew not to vote for Obama, because he was the Antichrist. And what's more is that he was born in America and didn't have a birth certificate. Allegedly, he was born in America, you know, and he didn't have a birth certificate. He had to produce one, and he produced one for Hawaii and then sealed it. So you can't get access to his birth certificate. You have a birth certificate. I have a birth certificate. Trump has a birth certificate. Obama did not originally have a birth certificate. And so now we, and it's been proven. And so, I just move on and talk about something else for a little while. America was founded on July 4th, 1776, and it was that's the day that we celebrate our country's independence. And we're now at the 250-year mark for the founding of our great nation. On July 4th, we will be have been a nation for 250 years. And I see memorabilia. Like the other day, I saw a hat, but I have this hat, so I kind of don't want a hat, but I would like a T-shirt, or even maybe a hoodie to represent America in at 250 years. The hat looked nice. I was tempted, but I like the Trump hat, so I'm staying with that. and you know, it's just a matter of time before maybe I'll get paid again, and maybe I'll buy another Trump hat. So maybe in the end, I will get to buy a hat. Oh, wait, here's an article. Uh, military.com. Washington wants answers after Pakistan's reported double role in Iran crisis exposed a risky regional balancing act. Pakistan sheltered Iranian warplanes during recent U.S. Iran crisis report. Here we go. I'm going to share this article on Discord under it should be under geopolitics. Hmm. So we have interference from Pakistan in the war with Iran. They were sheltering planes for Iran. Yeah, that's not a good sign. But let's read what the article had to say. Washington wants answers after Pakistan's double role in the Iran crisis exposed a risky regional balancing act. Pakistan quietly allowed Iranian military aircraft to park at its airfields during the recent Iran U.S.-Iran showdown, while simultaneously acting as a diplomatic intermediary between Washington and Tehran, according to new reporting by CBS News. And to me, that just illustrates the incompetence of Pakistan. Like, why is Pakistan a part of our negotiations? Why not Saudi Arabia? You know, like the Saudis, uh, see the fact that it's not the Saudis doing it and it's the Pakistanis doing it. You know, Pakistan, I don't think they've ever really been our ally. I mean, they've depended on us for things, but they haven't. It's kind of like Europe. Uh, they like our military to be present, but they don't want to. They're playing both sides, and you can't do that, Pakistan. You gotta you gotta choose a side. You gotta be with America, or you gotta be against America. If you're against America, it's gonna hurt. So I recommend you choose wisely. And I read another article that said that Trump is gonna send the Abraham Lincoln off the coast of Cuba once the Iran situation is dealt with. Yeah. So I find that to be a fascinating venture. We will have a Cuba as a part of the United States, along with Canada and probably Greenland. This is going to, like Trump is expanding our country because we have to grow. If we don't grow, we'll shrink and disappear. So Trump is growing us by trying to acquire Canada, Greenland, and Cuba. And we will be able to expand and uh, have more land. And, like I really think the Canadians and Americans can see eye to eye on more than it appears. Like the biggest fight that I ever encountered with Canada was fishing rights out of Washington State. Like there's a border in the water, and sometimes people from both countries will fish on the wrong side, and it would always be in the news every year up there in Washington. I remember that. Every time I think of Canada, I end up thinking of Washington. You can tell I miss that place, can't you? It was a nice place. Now that the liberals have so much control, it's out of control, I think. And so it's really sad because those nice people that I grew up with are still there, living under tyranny, basically. And Yeah, they can smoke weed, but what is that when you can't own a gun or you can't, you don't know that you might accidentally use someone's wrong pronoun and get sued. I went to Seattle itself, and there were some nice areas, but there were also some areas where I was like, well, I thought I saw Ilhan Omar. I don't know. It might have been her. What was she doing in Seattle, though? Anyways, I just had to mention that because I'm trying to. I found another news article. Driver reported waving gun at other motorists on Dallas, North Texas tollway. Hmm. So if you're in this area, be aware, and driving in traffic, be aware that you might encounter someone waving a gun at you. I just don't give them the middle finger. Wait till they can't see you no more. Hi, how are you? Welcome to my live stream. I don't know how much time you got to spend here, but if you want to talk about something, put a request in the chat and I'll look it up or see if I can explain it. Sometimes I can explain things to people and they like my explanation. When I was younger, I don't think they liked my explanations very much. They told me I was lying in the Navy. Like, what? And my mom thinks I'm lying about the whole Steph thing. Like, no, I'm not lying. If I was, I couldn't make the stuff up. That's the truth. There's no way I could come up with something like that. I just happened to, I'm checking my phone now because I want to look for more information. Uh, One lady told me cool. I love Credence. So I shared my other live stream with her, and I played Bad Moon Rising at the beginning, as I just mentioned not too long ago. And, you know, I used it as the opener because I started the live stream and then stopped it because it didn't seem like it was working. So I had to restart it. And before I did that, I wondered if I had a live stream window open and I couldn't see it, you know. But no, I didn't have anything open for the live stream. So, but I had Credence Bad Moon Rising open. God bless America. I think because of the copyright laws, I can't exactly play the whole song for you, but I was able to play a part of it. And so maybe I won't get a copyright strike when this uploads. I just enjoy chatting with you and talking with you. Today I talked to my mom for a little bit. I didn't exactly ask how she was doing, but rather she asked how I was doing. And then occasionally I get texts from Senator John Kennedy. He's a fascinating senator. Like I think originally he was a Democrat and then he became a Republican. Well, the Kennedys were Democrats, so it's understandable, though. It was in a time when the Democrats were a different party. They did care about America at one point, but now they even the Ukraine and Russia aren't sure who the Democrats stand for. But for me, I wish the Democrats would return to caring for America because that's people looked to them, and that's why so many people looked to them, and why it was so hard to get Trump elected. See, it goes all the way back to that, you know? They they pump theory after theory about who shot Kennedy, but I don't know who shot Kennedy. Kennedy was dead long before I was born. So, you know, over 21 years before I was born. And so the only thing left is RFK Jr. basically. And he's working with Trump. See, that's an indicator that Trump is doing the right things. When you have someone as far back as that standing with you, then you know you're doing the right thing and standing up for the right things. America is the land of the free, home of the brave, I believe. And you know, it's I can play a different song for you. I'm trying to find the anthem that I found. It's a version of it where they sing the whole song. Yeah, I like this version. The Star Spangled Banner. And it's the whole song. Ready? Mhm. Mhm. That's that's the version that you hear at the baseball game, you know. They don't play the whole thing at the baseball game, apparently. So and they don't play the whole thing at colors in the military either. So let me play the rest of it for you. It's a real treat, okay? And if you see the imagery, it's even better. I've heard that this anthem is sometimes considered a little bit racist, and I wonder why that is. Because you know, I hear that, and I don't hear anything in it that's racist. But then I hear this extended version, and I hear something about slaves and the hireling, and I wonder, well, is that what they mean by racism in the song? So I don't know. You know, I'm not I'm not an expert on racism, obviously, so I don't know. This be our motto. God is our trust. So there you have it. That's our whole anthem. You've been missing out. Yeah, it's beautiful. And you can hear our motto in there. In God we trust. In our anthem. See how it wasn't just added to the dollar. It was added, it was originally in our anthem. And they're trying to deceive us. So you see, into making us think that this wasn't in there. Hmm. I shared that on Discord. I don't know what she's gonna say. Let's see if she says anything back. uh, well, anyways, whenever I hear the anthem, I remember there's one particular moment where I was standing in Pensacola at Corey Station, and I was in the smoke pit right when the anthem hit. And of course, I stood and saluted, and realized I was facing a certain direction. And I think I was facing directly towards Steph's house. Yeah, and so I made sure I was in, all military bearinged out because I was excited. That was an exciting moment for me. I don't know why. They couldn't see me. Her family couldn't see me, but I just thought, well, you know, maybe it'll add up someday. Maybe not. Well, I'm gonna play something else for you. It's got music to it, and it's a speech by President Ronald Reagan, the long version. All right, you ready for this? freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Reagan. So that's a that's a wrap for the music, I think. I just wanted to share uh, a speech by Ronald Reagan to the music of the Transformers, you know? And it's interesting how he mentions the liberals. See how the liberals were concerned even back then. Like if you do some research, you'll find out that it wasn't Trump who founded MAGA. It was actually Ronald Reagan who founded MAGA. But MAGA emerged once Trump became ran for president, you see. And there was a speech where Ronald Reagan said, "Make America great again." And it was in, I think it was Connecticut. And you could see Herbert Walker Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush behind him. And I think he spoke as well. But it's interesting because Ronald Reagan, I remember his speeches from when I was a kid and his voice. And, he's got a voice that just kind of like makes you listen, I feel like, you know, like God made him for a certain time, just like he made Trump for a certain time. And, it's kind of like, uh, it's a real blessing to have Trump, and it's a real blessing to have people who love our country and at that high of a level because we have people in our government that do not love our country. They love only themselves and money. That's really it. That's really what they love. Although we uh, we love to we wish that they would wake up and turn a new leaf, but we can't depend on that. We got to act. And I just want you to know that I was on my phone again, and I think I'm going to end this live stream pretty soon. But I'll see if there's anything more on Facebook that I can uh, interact with. You know, I just shared a post, and it said from one of my followers on Facebook, and it said uh, MAGA. So I posted MAGA and then I shared it and said MAGA as well. Maybe it'll start a MAGA chain and we'll figure out who's who's for Trump and who's dropped out, who can't take it anymore. Anyways, I think this is it. So God bless America. The peace of Christ be with you and take care. Have a good afternoon, a good evening.